Hello, my name is Alexandra Parquette, and I completed my capstone on the use of video-based instruction to increase the independence of students with intellectual and developmental disabilities that are enrolled in an inclusive post-secondary program. So this is my overall poster, but I will go through each of these sections on individual slides. So first, my systematic review aimed at answering the question for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities enrolled in transition programs. Is the use of video, either prompting or modeling, effective at increasing the ability to complete independent living tasks compared to in-person least to most prompting? So for a little background, why this is important, individuals with IDD experience an increase in stress during their transition to adulthood. This is common for everybody, but it's especially common for people with disabilities, as their abilities are different than the typical individuals. So post-secondary programs can aid in this transition by teaching the skills required to become an adult and required in adulthood. And they allow students to do this in a safe and inclusive setting, and they can practice these skills and get good at them. So by incorporating video-based instruction into these post-secondary programs, students are able to increase their self-efficacy and self-esteem, and the workload of the staff can decrease because they are not having to teach something over and over again because the video can do that. So over on the right is my Prisma process. So this is how I narrow down all of my articles that I found during my systematic review. I found 11 studies that met the following inclusion and exclusion criteria. They discussed VBI, or video-based interventions, and they had outcomes related to increased independence in that population of transition age individuals with IDD. I excluded articles that reported just perceptions of people and their caregivers and students and everything, and I excluded articles that had interventions that just weren't applicable in a college setting. So the following key ingredients were found throughout all of the 11 articles that I found. They are the use of video prompting, the use of video modeling, and in-person initial video training, in-person competency trials, an unsupported skill assessment, so completing that skill without the support of video-based instruction, and then the opportunity to generalize those skills to a different setting without the support of video-based instruction. So I did a program development project, just a little background on my site. I worked with the Toledo Transition Post-Secondary Program, or the T2 program, which is at the University of Toledo under their Department of Occupational Therapy. T2 enrolls 9 to 12 college-age students. They all have IDD, and they're all college-age. Students complete either a 2 or 4-year certificate program, and it centers on academics, vocational internships, independent living, and self-determination. So my project specifically, its aim was to identify supports and barriers and then propose solutions to implementing VBI into the T2 program. I did this through a SWOT analysis and then through 2 trial cases. So for 2 T2 students, I obtained occupational profiles and then completed 6 sessions where I first instructed them on how to do their goal task, filmed them doing it, created a VBI, and then during their baseline section, didn't use the VBI, but allowed them to do that task. And then 3 VBI sessions where they used the video, watched it, paused it as much as they wanted, completed that task. Last session was maintenance and generalization, where they did not use the video, but they were given opportunities to use that task elsewhere. And the way that I determined independence was through a scored task analysis. So each of the 2 goal tasks that the students had, I broke it down into different steps, and I kept track of how many steps they completed independently to get a percentage. So those results of the trial are here on the right. As you can see, student A and student B both showed a very significant increase in their independence. And on the left is the results from my SWOT analysis. So several strengths and opportunities were identified, as well as additional weaknesses and threats. My main proposed solutions to those weaknesses and threats include incorporating the creation of video-based instruction into the current student and staff schedule. So that kind of addresses the threats of student reluctance, and then the transition in management. I don't know, just kind of it prioritizes VBI in the program. Using VBI as a remote support to fade out in-person supports in the T2 program. So right now the program employs educational and vocational coaches that phase out their support as students become more familiar in their classes or at their vocational sites. And so VBI is a great option to put in as the in-person support's faded out. I also think creating a digital library that stores VBI that can be accessed by students and coaches and anyone in the program would help, because students do repeat these tasks semester after semester. And I think it would be a good way to make sure that videos that are created aren't just lost once a student graduates or moves on to a different course. I also think creating handouts or a video-based instruction on VBI to teach new staff members how to use VBI would really help increase the implementation and feasibility of a VBI intervention. And then developing a strict smart technology policy to reduce distractibility, because that was something I found in the threat section that students were rather distracted when using their devices to watch the VBI. Some opportunities that I found, just going up to the SWOT analysis table, opportunities I found was incorporating VBI into independent living opportunities for students on campus. And so currently only one T2 student lives on campus, but that's something they're hoping to increase. And so I think VBI would allow some remote support to occur by caregivers or maybe other professionals that are paid to give those students some independence in independent living. So during my capstone experience, I had a lot of various field experiences. I served as both an educational and vocational coach for T2 students. So I acted as a liaison between the students and their professors or their bosses at their jobs, their supervisors. And I was able to learn a lot about various job sites and the ways to train and phase out support and everything like that. I was able to learn a lot in the different UT classes about how to adapt different college instruction into a way that is more accessible to people with disabilities. And I also was able to train incoming vocational and educational coaches on how to best coach a student with a disability. I was able to take several field trips, either physically to the sites or talking with people at the site, both for Lucas County and Wood County Boards of Developmental Disabilities, OCALI, which is the Ohio Center for Autism and Low Incidence, the University of Toledo, specifically their occupational therapy department, and Bittersweet Farms, which is a farm out in White House, which is in Northwest Ohio, and people with autism of all ages live on the farm. It's a working farm. They support the animals, create crafts, and sell them. It's all inclusive. It's a very, very cool place. I also created a lot of resources for the T2 program during my capstone. I created portfolios both for assessments to use in the program as well as interventions that address self-advocacy. I also created a promotional video for the T2 program with the help of some of the students in the program. I created some handouts that addressed occupational justice issues that are faced by students with IDD, especially in the college setting. So these address things like healthy relationships, self-advocacy, transportation around campus. Some of the handouts are for professors or other people working with students with IDD that address things like plain language and just like an overall guide sheet on how to treat people in general with disabilities. I also created a decision tree using the admissions criteria for the T2 staff to ensure that the students being admitted to their program are appropriate. And that is all. I would like to thank Dr. Monica Robinson and Dr. Beth Ann Hakovich for all of their help and support throughout this process, and thank you.